the fathers of Nobel Prize winners were rounded up by United Nations military units, all right? And actually forced at gunpoint to give semen samples in little plastic jars, which are now stored below Rockefeller Center underneath the ice skating rink. Wouldn't want to be there for the thaw. Ugh. I mean, it's disgusting. You know what they put in the water, don't you? Fluoride. Yeah, fluoride. On the pretext that it strengthens your teeth. That's ridiculous. You know what this stuff does to you? It actually weakens your will. Takes away the capacity for free and creative thought and makes you a slave to the state. So you ever wonder about all these militia groups, survivalist type kooks on the right-wing side? They say that they're defending the country from the UN troops. These guys are yelling so loud, my theory is, and this is a conspiracy, pal, that they are the UN troops and that they're in place. The infrastructure's ready, it's just a fait accompli. When the time comes, they'll just take over and we'll all be toast. Oswald, yeah, Oswald, that's what I said, Oswald. He said, I'm just a patsy, and that means that he didn't do it, right? Tell you the one about Arm and Hammer goes to the doctor, and the doctor said, hey, Armin, you've only got 3 minutes to live. And he says, oh my God, that's terrible news. Isn't there anything you can do for me, Doc? 3 minutes. And the doctor says, well, Armin, I can boil you an egg. I guess not. All right. Did you ever see those advertisements like, got milk? Hey, open up. Open it up. What's going on in there? Open it up. Son of a bitch. Eat beef? I mean, that's kind of like saying smoke cigarettes or drive cars. I mean, it's real generic. It's like this guy looks at me and he says to me, you think you're living in a free country? Do you think this is a democracy? Of course it's not. Websites, newsletters, self-published manifestos, they think we're kooks. I mean, George Bush knew what he was saying when he said New World Order. Remember those three little words, New World Order? Well, he was a 33rd degree Mason, you know, and as ex-director of the CIA. He knew that saying that was sends conspiratologists everywhere spinning their wheels, and they destroy their own. Hey, don't get me wrong, sister. I'm sure your heart's in the right place, okay? But, you know, somebody's got to lift the scab, the festering scab that is the Vatican. The chip for identification, so they can track down an animal anywhere he's at. You'll insert it under the dog's skin, and it's kind of like an identification thing. I mean, it's only a small, logical step, so they start putting it in us and our children. And then, before we know it, my God, they'll probably come with the pretext. Oh, sure, yeah. Hey, is that one of those new hundreds? You know, where they changed the picture of Ben Franklin? Look at him. Yeah. He looks like the love child of Fred Burks and Rosie O'Donnell. Yeah, that's him. Yeah, get rid of him as soon as you can, lady. Look at it up to the light. You see the metal strip in it? That's a tracking device. If you got any more of those at home, get rid of them. Exchange them for goods or something. Because they'll follow you. They know where every one of those hundreds is going. They know spend. And you know what? Black helicopters. I mean, you heard about them. The black helicopters, they're everywhere. Yeah, they're on whisper mode. So you can't hear them until they've already gone. You know? No, there's nobody there. Where'd they go? Oh, there was somebody in here. Oh, what am I talking? Why is the meter up?
Welcome to Trips to Reality with hosts Kevin Korn and North Black Forceman! Yay! Made me laugh!
And welcome to Trips to Reality on the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. You're here with your host, Kevin Korn.
North Black Forest Grin.
And we are in the studio today to talk about the weirdness going on.
Some weird shit going on right now. Some really weird stuff happening on and off this planet.
Fucking encounters the third kind. Fire in the sky.
Yeah, weird stuff. As of
My buddy Mac.
I believe it was the 6th of September, they shut down all of the observatories.
Yep.
Vacated all around the world.
Also vacated a space shuttle.
Space station. Yes.
Space station.
Vacated a space station. Somebody sabotaged and drilled a hole through the wall of the space station.
Yeah, so, I mean, is there a spy in space? And if there is, who is he spying for? Is he working for the Russians? Is he working for us? Is he working for the aliens? Fucking lizard people.
No.
Well, I don't know who he is, but he'll be the next president.
Yeah, so far they've shut down an entire town. Did you hear that? They shut down a town in New Mexico, right outside of what is that? Area 51.
Yeah, it's White Sands and Hickman Air Force Base. Yeah, oddly enough, they went and took over that observatory. I mean, strategically, it makes sense to be the one to be located at because you have Area 51 and Hickman right there. But they closed down everything, including this post office, which is really weird. It's like the only thing they had.
They made a note of it, like the post office was closed down. Like that was the headline, was it?
Yeah, the post office closed down. But the post office was the guy who was like, yeah, they told us this was going to happen a couple days early, and that's when I clicked it. All the numbers started clicking together. I was like, whoa, that's the day of the space station. Like, it's so weird they just evacuated a space station, an observatory, a post office, and then they killed the feeds and cameras to all the other solar observatories.
Yeah, very strange.
That is extremely strange.
Don't know what's going on. So basically what they're doing is they're making it illegal to look at the sky right now. Well, not illegal, they're just making it very hard.
Yeah.
Very hard to look at the sky.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, you can't really be looking at anything right now.
And aren't we supposed to be having some kind of solar equinox?
It's supposed to be the greatest time to be looking at the stars.
Yeah, right now, there's all these planets that are aligned that we're able to see with our naked eye right now. But we can't really.
But we can't. Now, this is a really big story. I know there's people all over this other world because that's where they shut these things down. I mean, they shut one down in Spain. They shut Australia, 2 in Hawaii, right?
Not Arizona, but New Mexico.
The one in New Mexico they actually took over, which I think is absolutely nuts.
Yeah, took over the whole town.
Took over the whole town. That's the one, and then flew in influential people in black helicopters.
On whisper mode.
Yeah, whisper mode. They're everywhere. Can't even hear them until they're gone. So yeah, they got one in Sydney. In Australia. They got one in Chile. They got one in Spain. 2 in Hawaii. 1 out in Pennsylvania. And they vacated the space station. This is all on the same day.
Mind you, all of these things all have live 24-hour feeds attached to them, usually.
Yeah, except for the one day that this happened. They just happened to all go offline at the exact same time.
Now, they're telling us that there's a lot of activity going on in the sun right now. There's solar spots or flares, spots, sunspots.
Solar flares. Yeah. Plasma.
Yeah. Plasma. Supposedly, we're going to be getting hit by a big storm of it here pretty soon.
Well, be careful what you say. You know, they'll start calling you a crackpot. You start asking, the good questions. I mean, like, how do buildings blow up from the inside when they're supposedly collapsing? How is there molten steel under the rubble with evidence flowing off of said buildings? Also, how does a bullet strike 2 people, change trajectories and locations in midair, and bounce off bone and mysteriously appear on a gurney unscathed? All of these are valid common sense questions we've been labeled as crackpots for asking.
Well,
right?
That's true.
Just saying. Like, you gotta be careful because now in America, if you have a valid point and you have a question and it goes against their agenda,
right,
you're automatically fucking wrong.
Absolutely.
And these people don't even want to stand up or say anything anymore. It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. Even crazier is I just don't understand the coincidence between. So I have a theory. Okay, so I don't really understand why it all plays out, but this is kind of what my theory is. Okay. My theory is they knew whatever was happening, that something was going to happen. They didn't want anybody to see it except for whoever got to see it. Yeah. Probably the Lizard Queen, right?
Right.
Lizard King and Queen went back to talk to their, pupils. Yes. The fucking lizard people. And
reptilians are among us.
That's who showed up in the black helicopter. So after the military took over. So the military comes in, they take out this town. They evacuate everybody. The post office specifically, because that was kind of like the rub on them, because whoever had them doing this didn't even trust them.
Yeah, and that's a federal building.
Yeah, they're like, we gotta get. It's like, I guarantee you, they had no power. I mean, other than what they were using for the observatory, but I guarantee you, they had no internet access, no cameras, no cell phone service, no landline service. I guarantee you they were cut off from the fucking world, right? And the only thing they could have done was gotten something to the post office. So they closed that out too. So, and then, once they got everybody out, they flew in the black helicopters and brought whoever, the king and queen of the lizard people, to come listen, right?
To observe. To
observe and watch through the observatory. That's what you're supposed to do. But then they shut down all the other solar ones, and they took the people out of the space station.
Now, the space station one's really curious to me. They evacuated all astronauts.
Well, let me.
Now, I'm curious about that. Did they?
Right, they only took out one, right? It's very weird because it's kind of funny because we blamed it on the Russians and said they sabotaged something.
Right.
The Russians claim that we're just a bunch of fucking spies. I mean, it's rather humorous because Russia responded today. They basically came out and said that of NASA and his Russian counterpart set out to reaffirm cooperation on orbital matters. So yeah, it looks like they're going to get back together. But we set out a rumor that they actually are the ones who did it. It was a rumor in Russia that a NASA astronaut deliberately drilled a hole in the Russian spacecraft docked to the International Space Station. The space agencies of the two countries released a joint statement on Thursday saying that a leak last month was being investigated and that they would refrain from further comment.
Space madness.
Space madness. I'm going to get him. I'm going to drill a hole in this thing.
Get that rasky fucker. Yeah.
Oh, man, it's the Cold War in space.
Yeah. It's fucking, America versus Russia all over again.
Nobody's racing to the moon. The leak, which was less than 1/10 of an inch wide, was first detected on August 29th. It posed no immediate threat to the crew aboard the station, and Russian astronauts quickly patched it with tape. Duct tape will fix everything.
Really?
Even solar radiation.
Just patched it.
But the story in Russian news media and statements by Dmitry I don't know how to say it. Yeah. Rajajazin. Sorry, fellow listeners from the East Bloc, but Merica.
Anyway, go on.
General Director Roscosmos seemed to suggest a need to reaffirm cooperation between Earth's most active spacefaring powers, who jointly manage the orbiting station, because the space station is us and Russia. I think there's actually a Chinese guy in there
probably
too.
China and India somewhere in there.
Right. Initially,
on the computer. He answers the phone.
He answers the phone. Hello. Can I interest you?
His name's Travis.
Yes, his name's Travis. Oh, man. He just wants to call and tell you about abortion. Oh, boy. I tell you, they are great. But initially, officials suggested that a micrometeorite had pierced the spacecraft. But last week, Mr. Rajazin raised the possibility of sabotage. In a Russian television report, he said that the micrometeorite theory had been ruled out because the hole appeared to have been originated from the inside. According to a translation of the remarks by the Interfax news agency, it said, "What was it? A defect or some intentional acts? Where were these acts carried out? On the Earth or already in the orbit?" Yet again, I am saying, we are not dismissing anything. In recent days, articles in Russian publications speculated that someone from NASA had deliberately punctured a Russian transport capsule called the Soyuz, docked with the station. According to the report, the Russian investigators suspected that a NASA astronaut had fallen ill. to take one sick crew member back to Earth, 3 of the 6 astronauts on the station would have to leave in the Soyuz. But perhaps NASA didn't want to pay the cost the new Soyuz launch, the report said, and so someone on the crew resorted to sabotage to force an evacuation. The hole was in the upper section of the spacecraft that is discarded before re-entry into the atmosphere, so there was no danger to the astronauts. An article in the newspaper Komsomolsk noted that the Soyuz is close to the American portion of the station. The newspaper said Roscosmos had asked for medical records and video recordings that would show the movements and health of the NASA astronauts, and that NASA was unlikely to comply to preserve the astronauts' privacy. The statement said that Jim Bernstein, the NASA administrator, and Mr. Rogozin, that's what I'm going to say, I'm just going to call him Rogozin from now. Ragazi. Yeah, Mr. Ragazi, he's a Russian, had spoken by telephone to discuss the space station leak. The administrator and the general director noted speculations circulating in the media regarding the possible cause of the incident and agreed on deferring any preliminary conclusions and providing any explanations until the final investigation has been completed. The statement went on to say, acknowledged the entire crew is dedicated to the safe operation of the station and all docked spacecraft to ensure mission success. It was the first time the two had spoken since Mr. Bernstein's confirmation in April, which faced a lengthy delay in the Senate. Even during the Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union collaborated in space, beginning, with docking of the Soyuz and Apollo spacecraft in 1975. In 1993, the United States invited Russia to join the space station effort, and after the retirement of the space shuttles in 2011, NASA has relied solely on Russia to take its astronauts to and from the station. This has been very lucrative for the Russian space industry. Each Soyuz seat currently costs more than $80 million.
Yeah.
Nice. But NASA's not buying any more seats.
No.
Next year, after years of delays, Boeing and SpaceX are to take over that role. So, that's interesting.
Yeah. So, we're going to be...
So, who's poking holes? And why would you do it? They poked the holes to evacuate the...
Just so they could get... So they could get a free ride, basically.
Absolutely. Free ride? No. To force the evacuation.
Well, I guess not a free ride. It would be there was only one... Rather than taking one person, they have to have a six-pack.
But let me let you in on a little secret. They evacuated that space station on September 6th. Same day, they went at these people in New Mexico and shut down all the observatories.
Yeah.
Are we already at Space War? Is the Space Force already up there shooting people? Is what we don't want us?
And they're still trying to play fucking
aliens.
No, they're still trying to play fucking Russia versus America.
Right.
And
they just don't want to let you know that they were up there shooting shit.
They don't want to listen in on what's really going on up there.
I know. And then again, on the other hand, there's the whole theory of, we have the, solar storm, right? That's coming. I mean, that one's coming. The facts are just there. We're getting eaten alive. This planet's going into a dark ice age. There's a good chance of it. In the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, it's not global warming, people.
It's climate change.
It's
climate change based on the changing of the magnetic poles. And, what's funny is people actually believe when you tell them that. Some people actually believe that there's actual, poles. Like the North Pole and the South Pole. So does that mean we're switching spots? No. The Earth isn't moving. Just the magnetic field is. Yeah. Which changes the magnetic field. So the north magnetic field now becomes the south magnetic field. This causes climate change.
Well, and the truth of the whole matter is to even call it north and south is a misnomer, because in all reality, we're sitting in a universe. There is no up. There is no down. North and south. That's what we call the two strongest points of magnetic current on the Earth.
Right.
I mean, that's what it is, really. I mean, we just base it off of magnetics. It really has no bearing on direction unless you're on the planet.
Exactly. Well, that's the whole point. But it does, because if you follow a compass, I guess.
That's what I'm saying. You're on the. If
everybody's
on the
watches are fucked.
If you're on the planet, off planet, looking at the Earth, what's north, what's south? I mean, what's up, what's down?
What's round and what's flat?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we can get into the flat earther
there
shit.
You go. You can go there too. But
well, I mean, the math is solid. No matter what you do to try to unprove these flat earther fucks, right? Their math is solid. It's the exact same math that they say that makes the Earth round. No matter what they do in the equations, you could lay it out flat. But the problem is, it's because it's fucking space. Yeah. And it's the way light bends, and it's the same. I mean, so technically, it really could be flat. I mean, none of us really know. I mean, I guess, unless I had $80 million, because I'm pretty sure Putin would sell me a seat. For $80 million, I'm going to the space station, bitches.
Actually, I'm pretty sure you can go up there for a lot less than that.
Yeah. He only wants to charge the government that.
Well, yeah.
He'd probably love to send a nobody up there.
I'd charge the government up the ass too. $80 million. I mean, go on.
He's got to get his Trump money back.
Shit, you can send a GoPro up on a balloon.
I know, I've been watching GoPro.
For under $100, you can send a GoPro up on a fucking balloon. Let's go find out what's going on that fucking space station.
Find out what's going on. Problem is how do you get it to stay up? You got a little GoPro Viagra with that balloon?
Oh, fuck. Big balloons.
Big balloons. Yeah. But not instead of big balloons. Man, I tell you, it's just crazy what's going on. And the other thing is I watched this guy, John Casey, and he's got this whole thing about the grand solar minimum.
Yeah, grand solar minimum, yes.
And it's basically going to be, the grand solar minimum, if you don't know what it is basically that line, right? To when we've hit because basically the sun's gone out, it's hit its max, it's now going to start winding down. Along with that, we are receiving more and more of the plasma and the gamma rays, which are radiation and radiating. They bring things like barium, something that goes down to the ground, because then floats back up in the air, creates clouds. Clouds create cover, and clouds are actually reflective, and they actually reflect the sun back. It doesn't actually go through it.
Exactly.
So we actually end up going really cold. On top of that, the electricity, the electrons, the neutrons, the neutrinos, the gamma rays, the plasma has major effects on the planet for earthquakes, tidal waves, volcanoes. So you go through all that, then it freezes over because you're cold as fuck. On top of that, the electricity that comes with it takes out all the power. Takes out all our electricity. So the one thing that we've prided ourselves off to live off is probably going to be the same thing that kills the majority of us.
Oh, absolutely. It always has been. I mean, what do you think? I'm sure electricity is a huge cause of cancer as well.
Yeah,
those
absolutely.
big old cancer boxes they fucking put out by the schools.
Well, I mean, this is crazy. And then, with the weather going to be as this, what happens to crops? What happens to food? I mean, I listened to this guy talk about the whole, plan. And it basically came down to, we know within 48 hours of when this starts, you will be out of food in your grocery store.
You know what I got out of this whole thing that really fucking bugged the shit out of me? New Zealand has, over 20 glaciers. Did you fucking know that?
26 glaciers.
26
and
glaciers.
They're growing.
In New Zealand. I thought it was a fucking tropical fucking island. I thought New Zealand... I
thought, dodo birds and shit?
Yeah, I thought they had, fucking... Yeah. They were, just a secluded, little island off of fucking Australia. I always just took them as a really small country, but, no, I guess that's a pretty big fucking island to have 26 glaciers.
Fucking A, it is. 26 glaciers is quite a bit. Yeah. But the weird part about the 26 glaciers is they were using them to just debunk global warming and these global warming theorists, because they're the actual theorists.
Right.
And they were like, if the global warming exists, why are these glaciers growing?
Right.
Huge, at a massive rate. On top of that, they keep telling you, the ocean's rising, it's gonna take over California. California's gonna drown. I don't know why California's gonna drown. We could have taken Florida. Give that back. Cuba, I don't give a fuck. But the water's already starting to recede.
Yep.
Which means and they're like, oh, well, the water's dried up because it's warm. No. If it was warm, it'd be melting Antarctica. And they're like, oh, but it did melt some of it. Yeah, because it did get warm there for a little bit. And it makes sense when it gets warm that ice fucking melts.
Right.
It also makes sense that when it gets cold again, ice forms back up. The problem is it's going to get fucking cold. Cold like we don't usually know. Right. And we're not going to have electricity to stay warm.
It's a 100-year cycle. You were saying
they do. Well, I mean, they teach you, according to John Casey, he was taught in high school that there's these 11-year turnarounds with the sun, right? I don't remember any of that shit. I don't remember that shit from college, but there's that. But then he said there's different cycles. They have a 100-year cycle.
Yeah, it just depends on how far you look at it and how you look at the data.
And he says he thinks this is going to hit really hard about between 2025, so about 2023 is when it's going to really come down. And he said at 2023, we would be at exactly 206 years. So we are right in there. So this is actually something, depending on how old, the listeners are, this is something that you will see in your lifetime.
Right.
And if you're young, this is your lifetime. I mean, there's unless you're going to Lord of the Flies it, but good luck, because I'll eat you. I'll be hungry. I saw fucking alive. I seen them guys crashing that mountain when everybody's cold, sitting in the snow.
Yeah, I'll be the first one up. Hey, you look tasty.
Yeah. I'll be looking at you like, pig, huh? I just think it's crazy. We're so used to when these things happen in America, them giving you these stories. Instantly, they're quick. It's a weather balloon. There's solar flares.
That was another thing that the Casey fellow was saying was that the news has the media has absolutely no vested interest in giving you any kind of 100-year cycle. 100-year.
They don't live that long.
Nobody lives that long, so they don't want.
They don't see it in their lifetime.
Yeah, they don't see it in their lifetime.
It's
they
not
don't see
worth
it in their paycheck.
Yeah.
So the only thing they want to show you is right now. Keep that in mind when you're watching your media and watching your news.
Right. Exactly. When they're sitting there telling you, oh, it's warm today, so it's going to get hotter, and this is the trend, it's going to go. But really, that's not what the science says at all. And we're about to find out, in case you haven't noticed, from the last 3 years, the hurricanes, the volcanoes, the earthquakes. Now, usually we go through these things, we get a few a year, right? We're getting a few a month, and they're coming ham. These volcanoes are going crazy. Earthquakes are tearing people up. Tidal waves, knocking out nuclear plants. Nobody finds it a coincidence that right after they did this, within 7 days, we had 2 giant hurricanes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You guys got,
Yeah.
Hawaii's under attack.
Yeah.
I think it's the cheapest tropical place to go to right now. Round trip tickets $300 because one island's got a volcano blowing up. The other one's getting hit by a hurricane.
The other one's underwater. Yeah.
One's under fucking water. It's crazy right now. I mean, what are you supposed to do? But this is Merica. Right?
Merica.
And on that note, we're gonna cut this one short tonight. A little half-hour trip through space on Trips Through Reality, where we trip through reality so you don't have to. And we're just gonna...
have a good night.
Heck yeah. Smoke some weed.
Get stoned.
Doobie.
From there. Let's move on to the next question. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jenny. I'm a sophomore, and this is for all 3 of you. Can you say in 1 sentence or less what... you know what I mean. Can you say why America is the greatest country in the world?
Diversity and opportunity.
Lewis?
Freedom and freedom. So let's keep it that way.
Will?
The New York Jets.
No, I'm going to hold you to an answer on that. What makes America the greatest country in the world?
Pop!
Well, Lewis and Sharon said,
Go
diversity
on.
and opportunity
Beer.
and freedom.
Building the wall!
I'm not letting you go back to the airport without answering the question.
Well, our Constitution is a masterpiece. James Madison was a genius. The Declaration of Independence is, for me, the single greatest piece of American writing. You don't look satisfied.
One's a set of laws and the other's a declaration of war. I want a human moment from you. What about the people? Why is America
Not the greatest country in the world, Professor. That's my answer.
You're saying...
Yes.
Let's talk about...
Fine. Sharon, the NEA is a loser. Yeah, it accounts for a penny out of her paycheck, but he gets to hit you with it anytime he wants. It doesn't cost money. It costs votes. It costs airtime and column inches. You know why people don't like liberals? Because they lose. If liberals are so fucking smart, how come they lose so goddamn always? Hey, and with a straight face, you're gonna tell students that America is so star-spangled awesome that we're the only ones in the world who have freedom? Canada has freedom. Japan has freedom. The UK, France, Italy, Germany, Spain, Australia, Belgium has freedom. So 207 sovereign states in the world, like 180 of them have freedom.
All right.
And yeah, you, sorority girl, just in case you accidentally wander into a voting booth one day, there's some things you should know. And one of them is, there is absolutely no evidence to support the statement that we're the greatest country in the world. We're 7th in literacy, 27th in math, 22nd in science, 49th in life expectancy, 178th in infant mortality, 3rd in median household income, number 4 in labor force, and number 4 in exports. We lead the world in only 3 categories: number of incarcerated citizens per capita, number of adults who believe angels are real, and defense spending, where we spend more than the next 26 countries combined, 25 of whom are allies. Now, none of this is the fault of a 20-year-old college student, but you nonetheless are, without a doubt, a member of the worst generation ever. So when you ask what makes us the greatest country in the world, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Yosemite? Sure used to be. We stood up for what was right. We fought for moral reasons. We passed laws, struck down laws for moral reasons. We waged wars on poverty, not poor people. We sacrificed. We cared about our neighbors. We put our money where our mouths were, and we never beat our chest. We built great big things, made ungodly technological advances, explored the universe, cured disease, and we cultivated the world's greatest artists and the world's greatest economy. We reached for the stars, acted like men. We aspired to intelligence. We didn't belittle it. It didn't make us feel inferior. We didn't identify ourselves by who we voted for in the last election, and we didn't scare so easy. We were able to be all these things and do all these things because we were informed by great men who were revered. First step in solving any problem is recognizing there is one. America is not the greatest country in the world anymore. Enough?